Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Buckley, and I'm the VP of Hiden Analytical here in the US. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the beautiful campus of Penn State University. We're privileged to be here in October to see the university in all its full glory and share, through discussion, one of the most important topics in the field of electrochemistry. As an introduction, for those of you who may not be so familiar with Hiden Analytical, we have been in business for just over 40 years, manufacturing precision quadrupole mass spectrometers from our global headquarters located in the UK, where we have some 100 plus highly qualified personnel. We have operations around the globe, and here in the US and Canada, our main facility is located in Livonia, Michigan, with local offices in Florida and Arizona, all complemented by additional nationwide representation. From each of our locations, we are proud to serve our clients working in the fields of plasma physics, surface science, vacuum diagnostics, and advanced gas analysis, including, amongst others, applications in catalysis, health science, biogas, environmental studies, and of course, electrochemistry. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank Erin, Pat, Ezra, and Abigail for all their time, hard work, and enthusiasm whilst working with us over these past few months to put together today's meeting. We are truly grateful. Thank you all. We're here today to recognize and celebrate the significance of differential electrochemical mass spectrometry, or DEMS, a technique that combines electrochemistry and mass spectrometry to qualitatively and quantitatively detect volatile products or intermediates of electrochemical reactions, providing crucial insights into reaction mechanisms, kinetics, and the identification of reaction intermediates, which is particularly valuable in studying complex electrochemical processes like those involved in fuel cell development, battery research, and environmental remediation. Whilst DEMS in principle has been with us for some time, the pace of research and development has grown dramatically in recent years. This as we work hard to address and combat, amongst others, our climate concerns. We are fortunate to have with us here today some of the leading researchers in the field, traveling from Colorado and Illinois, more locally here in Penn State itself, and from the UK, to share with us details of their current work focus. With this in mind, I'd like to take a few moments to welcome and introduce each one individually. Jim Melling is Senior Application Scientist for Gas Analysis at Hiden, UK. In the 16 years he's been with Hiden, Jim has traveled to over 40 countries, climbing volcanoes, taking overnight trains across India and ferries across the Mediterranean, training scientists in the art of mass spectrometry. Before Hiden, Jim spent 19 years with Unilever as an environmental scientist, gaining an MA in environmental policy before deciding there was more to life than the biodegradation profiles of laundry products. Currently specializing in multi-fermenter biogas, syngas analysis, membrane inlet mass spectrometry, and of course DEMS and OEMS, he also advises on software development and cross-system integration. Professor Ezra Clark is the Thomas K. Hepler Early Career Professor of Chemical Engineering at the Pennsylvania State University. His research group focuses on the development of electrocatalytic technologies for sustainable fuel and chemical production. Currently, his group is focused on the development of electrochemical isotopic transient measurements, the design of intermetallic electrocatalysts, and the exploration of thermoelectrocatalytic synergy. Ezra earned his undergraduate degree in chemical engineering from the University of Louisville and his doctoral degree in chemical engineering from the University of California at Berkeley. Before arriving at Penn State, he performed postdoctoral research at the Danish Technical University located in Copenhagen, Denmark. He has received numerous recognitions at every stage of his career, including a Goldwater Scholarship, a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship, a Marie Sklodowska-Curie Postdoctoral Research Fellowship, and the Hepler Endowed Professorship. He is also the president-elect of the Pittsburgh-Cleveland Catalysis Society. Welcome, Ezra. Abigail Cicelli graduated with her Bachelor of Engineering in Chemical Engineering at Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken, New Jersey in the spring of 2021. She is now a fourth-year chemical engineering graduate student at Penn State University, advised by Professor Clark. Abby's doctoral thesis focuses on fundamental electrocatalytic activity measurements. Professor Mohamed Asadi is Associate Professor in the Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering at Illinois Institute of Technology. He joined IIT as an assistant professor in 2017 and completed his PhD in mechanical engineering at the University of Illinois at Chicago and received his Master of Science degree in chemical engineering from Sharif University of Technology. He has authored and co-authored 25 peer-reviewed publications in journals such as Science, Nature, Advanced Materials, Advanced Energy Materials, ACS Nano, and Nature Communications, and has 10 US patents and 4 patent applications. He has more than 5,000 citations in the area of advanced functional materials, catalysis science, electrochemical energy storage, and energy conversion systems. Now, unfortunately, Professor Asadi can't be with us today in person, but his presentation is going to be presented on his behalf by Moon Park, who's going to join us virtually over Zoom from Argonne National Laboratory. Professor Xingchen Yi is currently an associate professor in the Department of Chemistry at Indiana University, Bloomington. Prior to joining IUB in 2017, he was a postdoctoral fellow at UC Berkeley, working with Professor Paul Alivasatos. He earned his PhD in chemistry from the University of Pennsylvania in December 2012 under the tutelage of Professor Christopher Murray, and a BS in chemistry from the University of Science and Technology of China. Dr. Yi has received multiple research awards from the National Science Foundation, including the Career Award, and is a founding member of the recently established NSF Center for Single Entity Nanochemistry and Nanocrystal Design. The Yi Group focuses on precision synthesis of colloidal nanomaterials and their superstructures for energy applications, as well as utilizing in situ electron microscopy techniques to elucidate nanoscale dynamics and materials transformation. Mark Kazor is a third-year student, a graduate student in Professor Lindsay Seitz's group at Northwestern University. His research focuses on halogen-mediated styrene epoxidation with antimonate catalysts for the chlorine evolution reaction, as well as hydrogen peroxide production in a membrane electrode assembly. Differential electrochemical mass spectrometry has informed his exploration of organic electrooxidation catalysis, as well as reaction product quantification. He will share his lab's experience with DEMS cell designs and product quantification techniques applied to multiple catalytic reactions. Todd Whitaker is a fifth-year PhD student at the University of Colorado Boulder, working under the supervision of Professor Adam Hulwinski. His research is primarily focused on developing a deeper connection between computational and experimental techniques in electrocatalysis, specifically as it relates to mechanism discrimination. His presentation will cover the work he and others have done in the Hulwinski lab regarding kinetic measurements using DEMS and some of the challenges associated with these measurements. Now, just a little housekeeping before we start. Our presentations will be the order of 30 minutes in total, with additional 5 to 10 minutes for questions coming from both our in-person attendees and virtual registrants through our live stream channel. A short coffee break will be taken between 10:30 and 10:45, followed by a lunch break at 12:15 to 1:15 p.m. At approximately 2 p.m., we'll head over to Professor Clark's laboratory for a lab tour and to view the DEMS system, returning back to the conference room at 2:40. During that period, our live stream viewers will be shown a pre-recorded interview with Professor Clark and a video of the lab, the DEMS system, and example application data. Once we are back together in the conference room, we'll combine a question and answer session With a refreshment break between 2:40 and 3 p.m., our presenters will be pleased to take your questions at the close of each presentation. If I can ask for the presenters, if when they're doing their presentation, if they can stay, if possible, quite close to the microphone so that we can hear nice and clearly. If everyone could switch off their cell phones or put their cell phones into silent mode, that will be super. And then when we come to asking questions, there'll be handheld mics to hand around. Without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing my colleague, Jim Melling, our UK-based electrochemistry application specialist. Jim will provide some background to DEMS at Hiden Analytical and an overview of the technique. Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Is it going to switch over? Mark, is it going to switch over? There we go. Okay, so I thought I'd start us off with a little bit of history of DEMS from the point of view of Hiden, where it all started, and then how we've ended up here at PSU. That was a bit quick. You'll have to forgive me for playing around a little bit like this because I don't get to do a lot of presentations, so I thought I'd have a little bit of fun. And I would have loved the actual Star Wars music, but copyright issues is an issue with this live streaming. Okay, okay. So let's get rid of that one. And there we go. I promise this is the last time I'm doing any messing around. Let it go. Okay. Actually, they've called it. I think in the advertising it's called a short history, which is more Bill Bryson, and I've gone more Stephen Hawkins with a brief history. Actually, it's the actual name. Okay. So it all started in France, actually, in Poitiers in France, which they proposed to us, could we put together a thin layer DEMS cell which was compatible with our systems? Okay, so in collaboration with those guys, our design team came up with a nice design, which was signed off by Poitiers. At that point, we called it the HPR40 DSA, which is Dissolved Species Analyzer, with a DEMS cell. So at that point, we weren't really calling it a DEMS system. And all we did was provide a single glassy carbon working electrode. Okay. So there's I dug out the original order and the original design approval from Poitiers, and in French, they're bon pour exécution, or go for it, or the design approved with the cell there spinning. That was an option, but okay, so that's that one. So into 2013, we got some orders from the University of California, Berkeley, and from Louisville. At that time, we didn't really appreciate how big these orders were for us, how important they were going forward. And we got some photos back from Louisville there. I think that one was possibly Mohammed Asadi who'd done that. So that was Professor Asadi, maybe did that setup. At that time, you can see with no electrode supplied, they were just bespoke electrodes, which were okay at that time. The order at University of California was bought by Alexis Bell, but I think went on to be used by Ezra. Okay, that's the one. So then again, Mohammed Asadi crops up because he's at University of Illinois and works with Argonne and takes the orders there. So we got 2 more orders there. We started to think, okay, this could be a thing. So we started to call it the HPR40 DEMS on the order forms, but we're still badging it as a HPR40 DSA. We did start to hear at Berkeley that there was a novel cell, a custom cell being made, and Gerard Duffy was down there advised on the mass spectrometry. And then in July 2015, Ezra and the team down there published a paper describing this dual thin layer cell, which was for CO2 reduction. Okay, that's a cell with a split anode chamber by an ion conducting membrane. to a cathode chamber, so only the products from the cathode chamber would be seen by the MS. There's the first photos from Berkeley, and it's a younger looking Ezra hanging onto the system, and you can just make out the cell there in the bottom, well, the middle bottom there, the cells there, which was a custom cell. So Ezra gave us the opportunity to work with him on this and commercialize this new cell, and we were happy to do so. And we added that to our standard thin layer cell options. Okay. Then we got, with that new cell, University of Colorado, the Helwinski group, were the first to place that order, and I think Todd has told me that that's still the same mass spec being used now. So that's, nearly 10 years old, okay, which is great to hear. And then we got a lot of interest from China, which was out of nowhere. I guess they'd heard about something, read the paper, and we got 5 orders all there at the end of 2016. And there she is. And at this point, we were supplying with the acrylic anode chamber, which is nice in that you can see the bubble formation. And you can see in the picture that the dual layers are split there. And still no electrodes. So we were supplying still without the electrodes. Sales then picked up, mainly concentrated in China. We were still, there's a little bit of fun here as well, okay. But also Israel, India, UK, and US. So at this point we figured, okay, we need to assign someone to look after this, and that person was me. Okay. So I looked at previous orders, looked at user feedback. I was noticing we were selling a lot of probes with a silicone membrane, which was just not compatible with the electrolytes. So it was an easy win to switch that silicone membrane for a PTFE membrane, and we ended up with a DEMS probe. Okay. There were some compatibility issues with the acrylic membrane on the dual thin layer cell, so we switched it to a peak, all peak cell. I realized we were supplying the cells couldn't be used straight out of the box, so we started to supply all the electrodes, just because I missed one there, and we started to make different types of material for the working electrode in the dual thin layer cell. So we got discs made out of gold, silver, titanium, and nickel. In 2020, I got my first potentiostat, a little biologic SP50, and that enabled me to check out the integration with a cable between our software, and in this case it was EC Lab, and we were able to create a cable which could trigger, plot the potential and the current. We now got cables for the Metro and Auto Labs, the Gamries, Palm Sense, and the CH instruments, and any potentiostat that can give out the signal we can also take into our software. So with that cable and with my new little potentiostat, I was able to produce some videos and some guides. The one you see there is just some water splitting, and that's by far the most viewed video on our Hiden Analytical gas analysis website, if you ever wanted to see that. Okay. Then we started to see, after all that work on the DEMS, we started to see a lot of work with the evolved gas analysis. So at that point, we'd realized that the PTFE membrane was no good for some of the electrolytes used in battery research. So these guys were having to do evolved gas analysis. A lot of the times with a capillary which we'd already supplied. The DEMS inlet could be switched with the capillary. But that capillary was of quite a high flow rate, which diluted the products. We already knew of Brent Mallow at University of Southern California. He was working with the ECC DEMS cell, so we asked him to do a little bit of work with us to optimize that flow rate within that particular ECC DEMS rate, DEMS cell from L cell. From that, the ultra low flow capillary was born, and that's our recommended option with these ECC DEMS cells or any custom cells with a low headspace cell. We supplied at that time as well a little kit there, connection kit, a quick connects, just to allow you to fill these cells up in an argon box and connect with the connection kit without oxygen entering the system. Then into 2022, Ezra, Professor Clark, began his work here at PSU using a modified cathode chamber. So this was a direct observation kind of chamber, so with a sputtered membrane allowed us to see the products immediately. The 3D model there doesn't show really the working electrode. So the working electrode in this case was a thin piece of copper tape. But essentially it was the same anode chamber with a modified cathode chamber. Again, we were able to commercialize this and added this cathode chamber to our package. So now we had a package of the dual thin layer, the thin layer, and the direct observation cathode chamber. After, just as a side note there, after a lot of searching, we found a supplier for a carbon disc electrode for the type B cell, or the dual thin layer cell, which took some doing because of the fragility of that glassy carbon. Okay. 2023, back to, well, finally and officially, we launched the HPR20 OEMS to cover those gas analysis orders. And we'll ship that with the ultra low flow capillary, but also offer a microflow capillary for really low headspace, which is 12 and 25 microliter capillaries. And we captured then the HPR20 orders, which were being used for electrochemical battery research. This became and is our recommended option for connection to the PAT cell gas, which includes the connection kit. It's preferred to use their connection kit rather than ours. But it will connect to all custom cells and redox me cells in particular. And finally, for this year, we've moved away from the electrode in the thin layer cell. We've got a new reference electrode now, which screws directly into the cell body. We've been working on a new cell based on Ezra's new design, which you'll see today. I think Abby's going to take you through that. It uses the same technique as the modified cathode chamber, but now has a nice new anode chamber and a nice connection to the membrane. We've got a new all non-metal DEMS probe. We were having some problems with the stainless compatibility in custom cells, and so we can now fully immerse this probe into the cells and beyond. So we're looking at a complete solution for the long-term battery cells. We are finding that with the carrier gas flow through the cell, the volatile components of the electrolyte was being blown away. So we're going to supply the volatile component back in with a bubble on one side of the cell and then remove it with a condenser just before the mass spec on the other side of the cell to improve the mass spectra. We'd love to get some electrochemical specific software for both DEMS and OEMS, and I'm very interested to hear about calibration and quantification from today. So, and hopefully I'll see lots of other things from today which will help me going forward or help us going forward. Okay, well, that's just the last little bit of fun I had was that. But thanks to everyone who's been part of this journey so far, and we'll see where it goes in the future. Okay, thanks. Cheers. Thanks.
Do we have any questions for Jim? Anyone online? Are there any questions for Jim? Okay, thank you so much there, Jim.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers.